I am going to talk a little bit about when your best advocates think that Insta Twitface is funny. What I mean is that there are a lot of people out there who are very well educated on the internet. They're tech savvy, for want of a better phrase that we've just used, but they're very suspicious of social media and particularly brands in social media. And that kind of sums up my demographic, which I'll talk a little bit more about as we go through. I think it's worth pointing out that, there we go, that. It's worth pointing out that I've gone to lots and lots of conferences recently about digital, about the digital space, about social media, about what's coming up. But the huge, what's the word? The majority, huge majority of the people who are in the UK workforce at the moment are Gen X's and baby boomers. They are not the 19-year-olds who are vining about everything. Now, if you have a product where your key demographic is in that kind of university, young, cool range, then brilliant. It's really useful to know about that. But if you have a product with a higher ticket price, like Exodus Travels, where we're taking people on amazing bucket list journeys around the world, which have average ticket price of about £1,700-1,800, you need people with that income that can afford to do it, and those people are in these extra groups. 65% of the workforce, the UK workforce, is over 35. That's our Gen X's. I'm in there somewhere. But also worth remembering that all of these baby boomers, these are not old people. There's an awful lot of young marketers out there who think of these as old people, and actually these are rock and roll people. They were listening to guitars long before most of the young digital marketers are around, were ever even thought of. So I think it's really important to think of this demographic, and I'm not saying let's not look at what's coming. Let's look at what's coming, but for the next 10 years, in terms of income and buying power, this is still going to be the majority of the people with the cash out there. So let's look at how those things going forward are influencing this big group, particularly if you're in the kind of market that we are at Exodus. And just to sort of back that up, this is a distribution of Facebook users in the United Kingdom, the first quarter of 2016. I'm not quite sure how they did that, but Statistica claim they did. 50% of them are in this kind of 35 plus. I've kind of gone halfway down there. So people on social media are that demographic. They're the older than 35 demographic quite a lot of the time. And that was just the same. It's the same kind of stat, but it's talking about users, general internet users. At Exodus, we're in the really fortunate position of having 97% of our customers say they would recommend Exodus to a friend. I mean, can you imagine? I felt like all my Christmases has come at once the day I got a marketing job at a company where 97% of your customers would recommend you to a friend. It's a real joy. The reality is they don't. They don't recommend us to a friend for two reasons. One is that Exodus isn't part of the brag. So what happens is you go away, have a brilliant time, and you come back and you sit at the dinner table and you say, oh, when we were in Sri Lanka, the guide was amazing. Oh, he took us to this little village and we had this amazing time. Or you say, oh, we saw these brilliant cheetahs that no one else would have found in the Masai Mara because we had this fantastic guide, and the people who were with us, the chap really knew about photography, or everything is about the people they meet and the lovely restaurant they've gone to. You don't then, at the end of that, say, and all of that was brought to you by Exodus Travels. It's just not part of the brag. If you ask them who they went with, they'll tell you it was Exodus. They're not ashamed of it, but it's not part of the dinner party brag. And also they don't create content, and this is our biggest issue. So the average age of an Exodus customer is 51, which sometimes surprises people. But in adventure travel, those people who've got the money and the time to be doing that kind of adventure are that that kind of age group. It's quite a broad spectrum of kind of 30 to 70 odd our group. It doesn't have this big peak at 51. It's much softer than that, but that's kind of the average age. And those people, that group of people, just don't create content in the same way as the youth do. So they're on social media, but they're not creating it. For us, and I was talking to someone else earlier about Psychographic, the VistaJet chap, who was saying it's not just about whether people can afford to go on their private jet. It's also about what their psychographic, how they feel about themselves, the type of person they are. And it's absolutely, that's the case at Exodus. The type of people who want to go on a small group holiday, low impact, where you learn about a community, you learn about a culture, and you do something active and cool, is absolutely around psychographic. But there's no point in saying it's only psychographic, because they then have to have the money and time to be able to come as well. So it's both. It's psychographic and demographic that we need to look at in our ones. And that's my mum hula hooping. So this was a really nice illustration for me of, I feel like I should make her hula hoop again, because it's so cool. Bless my mother. Look, let's make her do it again. She'd be horrified, wouldn't she? No, she wouldn't. She's cool. Oh, I can't make it do it again.
Don't worry.
No, doesn't matter. Anyway, you saw the first time. So I went to a beer festival with my mum and my teenage son. And mum, and there were jugglers and, kind of all these cool things going on. And mum picked up a hula hoop and said, I haven't done this since I was 10. And then, proceeded to hula hoop. Brilliant, really cool. She's an Exodus type of person, up for adventure, still very, very fit at 68. She's, can climb mountains and things. But I thought what happened next was really interesting. So there's the three of us at the beer festival. And what happened was I took the video, and it was much too long, and kind of I'd moved bits about and things while I was taking it. And my teenage son grabs the phone off me and trims the video, edits it so that it's kind of a sensible length, and sends it to himself and puts it on Instagram straight away. I put it up on Facebook. So he Instagrams, I Facebook, and my mum likes it. And that is what that demographic are doing. They're, I'm in the Gen Xers as well, so we just about can bring ourselves to share something on Facebook, but they're not creating the content. They're liking it. If they feel really interested, they'll comment on it. But in social, in that digital space that they're involved in, they're stalkers. They look, but they don't get involved in curating or publishing content. And that's our challenge at Exodus. So we've got all these people who say they would recommend us to a friend. They're not doing it. I put that up just because it made me giggle, but that's the truth of it. Actually, people my age and older are the ones who are going, yay, we never put all this stuff that we did when we were young and mad onto the internet, and we're actually quite pleased about that, and we're not going to start now. So I did a little bit of research to see this, whether what we suspected at Exodus was true. Have you ever posted photos that you yourself has taken on any kind of website? And you can see just how big the difference is between the publishers of that kind of 18 to 29 group right down to 65 plus, who are really not publishing. Not surprisingly, women are publishing more than men. These little letters here just are saying it is statistically significant. That's what the letters meant on those. So photos, fewer and fewer who are sharing them, and then videos, not surprisingly, even less. So these people here, so my average age group is 50, 51 I think is the average age at the moment, slightly younger for new customers. 11% of them, only 11% of them are posting videos that they've made. And we're in travel. We've got these amazing, beautiful destinations that we could do with everyone taking video and photos of and sharing, and they're not doing it. So, solutions. One of the solutions is that we film them. Here we go, here's Sue.
My name is Sue Clark and I come from Silsoe in Bedfordshire. I'm just besotted with adventure holidays really, and just the opportunity to go and see such amazing places. I started off with the cycling ones to the Amalfi Coast, to Croatia, then Georgia and then the Baltics. And then because I'm coming up to my 50th birthday celebrations, I thought I had to do something different for this year. So I booked Mount Tukul for a long weekend as a practice run for Kilimanjaro in August. I mean, I have 2 children that I work around, and my holidays are very much data orientated. So when they go off on a sports tour or they go off and do something with a school, then I can actually go on the website and just select the dates available, and off I am again. I think the build-up's been there for a while. I just wanted to make sure that before I hit 50, I was in a place where I could just go off and do new trips, new adventures, not be restricted. And I guess one of my fears is that I don't want to regret anything. If life changes, you never know what's around the corner. I never want to think that I wish I had done X, Y, Z. I just want to make sure that I do X, Y, Z and a whole lot more.
So we have done a whole series of what we call Your Words Not Ours, which is us filming people talking about why adventure is important to them, why their Exodus trips are important to them. And the engagement that gets on social media is amazing. People watch them, and they watch them on YouTube. They're really interested in finding people like them who are doing it. It's just that we have to facilitate the creation of that content. We can't bank on our types of customers creating that content. The other thing that we do is we quote them. So the Your Words Not Ours campaign, which was all around this advocacy, is doing really well for us. We've just had the best ever January that Exodus Travels has ever had for sales, and this campaign is what's leading that. But again, what we're trying to do is pick up on what our customers regularly say is good about us, and they say it a lot. They write reviews. So we've got 10,000 reviews on our website of people saying that our holidays are brilliant, and we don't even curate those particularly, because we just let people say what they want, because so many people say brilliant things about us. So we picked out some of the words that were regularly being repeated in order to create this video. It was a really interesting advert to create. So for the first time, we're using Sky AdSmart to do TV advertising this year, because we know that our demographic watch very particular types of TV programmes, but they do. And so we can target exactly who's watching what with Sky AdSmart. And we're using that 30-second ad in that channel as well. It's on YouTube on pre-rolls, and again we're targeting the demographic quite carefully, and we've got the highest watch through 30 seconds that our advertising agency have ever seen, because it's so beautiful, the imagery is so fabulous, it kind of grabs people. Another interesting side story is that when I first had an agency try and come up with music for this advert, all they could think of was that we had quite an old demographic compared to them in their trendy London office, and they literally gave us elevator music. I was like, no, that's not who our customers are, we need a guitar. Anyway, so I got a friend to write a piece and play a guitar in the end, because we needed something upbeat. But it's doing really, really well, and we've got over 250,000 views on YouTube, and it works very well for us because it does all the things that digitally you can do. You can get that movement in, and the bright colours, and the use all those sort of beautiful places in the world that we're so lucky as a travel firm to kind of have at our disposal, and put it into 30 seconds. So it's really grabbing people's attention. It's worked very well for us on Facebook as well. And we find ways to share their stories. So for instance, there was this woman, Colette, who his father died, and in the letter that he'd written to her, he'd sort of said, you need to go out and fulfil your dreams. And so she came and did the Inca Trail with us and wrote to us saying, had this amazing time, and wrote this whole story about her dad, and sent us this letter. We were like, oh, we need to capture this. This is exactly the kind of thing that we need on social media, we need out there. She'd shared it with us, but she's just not the kind of person who would share it across social platforms. So we put it on our website, on Facebook, on Twitter, and again it got lots and lots of traction, people commenting on it and saying, oh, I get that, I understand that, I can see where she's coming from. So finding ways to share their stories for them is really important for us. And the other thing is we have a really educated customer base. They're very, very savvy. They're educated, they're well researched, and their bullshit filter is really high. They do not want to be sold at all. They want to choose. They want us to enable their travels. They want us to enable their choices and their understanding, their research. One of the things that we find works particularly well is helping them show how they understand the world really well. And so if we post something like this about, there was this lovely article that we had written, Leslie Downer of The Independent wrote about Jordan, about going to Jordan in an Exodus group. It's all small groups we do, and how wonderful it was, and the local guide was wonderful, and how she had been nervous about going to Jordan until we'd sort of suggested it. And what happened as a result is people underneath are all writing things like, can't wait to fly out, one can't be afraid to travel, you only have this one life, refuse to give up doing what I love. We had a brilliant time. People love being part of that. Yes, let's keep going, let's keep adventuring. It's a wonderful thing to do. That kind of love of the world, and so that lots and lots of commentary on that, which was nice. And we also find traditional activities, so things that feel traditional, that feel familiar, as ways to engage them. So one example is an advent calendar. John will laugh because we did this at Butlins. When I got to Exodus, I thought, oh, the advent calendar worked really well at Butlins when it's all mums who've got children. Will it work at Exodus? And I thought, last year, well, we'll have a go. And so we did a first shot at it last year, and then this year, just gone, we did it, and it was much bigger. We got 33,000 entries to our advent calendar. For a relatively small company, that's a huge amount of engagement on Facebook. And we used a Facebook app to do it, and literally each day it was things like beanie hats or walking socks, or it's just little tiny things each day that people were entering for, with a grand prize of £1,000 off any Exodus adventure as the kind of final one. But the shares, the likes, the amount of people who engaged with it was incredible for us in terms of our demographic. So we were really chuffed. I do think that using a concept that people understand, like advent calendar, everyone gets it, they get what it is. It's not a scary, weird thing that's to do with digital that I don't get. Everyone understands an advent calendar. They all enjoyed it, and that's our, so you can see there were over 33,000 entries, a really good reach for us, and a lot of that organic but paid as well. So amazing engagement rate. I just put Fan Booster at the bottom because it was their app that we used, and it was really quite easy. Oh, and we got a lot of, can I go back? Yeah, so almost 2,000 pieces of new data as well, which is nice. Sponsorship, again, it's one of those things, I remember walking around with my sponsorship for my school walk when I was 8, 10p a mile type sponsorship. Everyone can understand sponsorship. And so when the Nepal earthquake happened, we thought, well, what we'll do is we'll put up a Virgin Money giving site, asking people to donate to Exodus. We've already got a lot of community projects in Nepal. It's part of our heartland, really, Nepal and Everest Base Camp and the communities around there. And we initially said that we would, if we got to £15,000, we would match it. So we were hoping that we might make £30,000 for Nepal, and you can see, well, we soon realised within 2 days that we were going to have to times that target by 10, and the total is nearly £250,000, which is just extraordinary. But people got it. They understand what it is. They trust us with their money because they know the type of customer, the type of trips that we run, and the way that we run our community projects out there. And they understand sponsorship. And it's not social media in the same way, but it's still really useful. It's really useful and has digital worth for us when all of the people donating say things about the Exodus team are brilliant. We had a wonderful time when we came with Exodus. The Nepalese people were wonderful when we went with Exodus. You do a great job. So it's a different type of social media, but still social media. People are there reading them, looking through these. And again, for that demographic, it makes absolute sense to them. So that was lovely. Gosh, we had thousands and thousands of individuals, each donating small amounts of money. So it was wonderful. Going forward, so there's no way we're there yet. There's lots and lots of things that I think we need. I've been at Exodus 18 months and I've got my fingers into lots of the pies now, and I'm really starting to feel like I can make a difference. But going forward, there's lots more things that I want to do. So one of them is looking at how we can edit our customers' videos. So maybe our customers could be convinced, they have smartphones on the whole, maybe they could be convinced to take video of the places that they go to, but a video has even worse habits of just sitting on the external hard drive than photos do. You know, they come back and they just sit there. So I think the only way of getting it into social is for us to edit it. So we're talking to First Person Films and other people as well. That was just the one that I put there, about how they can help us curate our customers' content and get it onto social. We're looking at apps that make sharing photo albums ultra simple and slick. I put up that one, made me laugh. It's the My Friends app from Facebook that was doing it on Friends Day last week, that everyone was running mock ones of. But it was so simple because basically it just did it for you. It chose the photographs, and that, I'm looking at whether there's a nice way of telling people that we can do something genuinely beneficial, create a really shareable bit of content for them if they just put their Exodus photos into this photo album on Facebook, or on, not sure it's Facebook, it might be on some other photo sharing platform, but they take a lot of photos, our customers, so finding ways to help them share that is important. Working out how we can make our reviews work harder. So as I said, we've got 10,000 reviews on our own website, and we don't want to lose those. We want to hold on to those because they're brilliant and they're really useful. We have about 500 different trips that we run, and so having all those reviews, most of which are glowingly positive, is really, really useful. But it feels to me that there must be ways, if we work with some other third parties, of making those work harder for us, both for SEO but in social media in general. So that's another of my plans. So in summary, there are a lot of Gen Xers and baby boomers out there, and they make up around 2/3 of the UK workforce. They're digitally savvy, they're on social, they don't curate or publish content, and even their sharing, even hitting that share button is quite limited. They'll hit the thumbs up button. Did you just click that as I went thumbs up? That would be an interesting photo. So what we're trying to do is find ways to create content from their experiences and share it for them, or facilitate them sharing it. And also to find ways to make social feel familiar where we can, so echoing offline activities that feel familiar to them.